Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to a new video today on In the Stars. Today I'm going to be talking about quads and trips. For all you who don't know, who didn't tune into the last couple of videos, that's quadruplicities and triplicities on how they influence one another in the zodiac signs. Now, I'm sorry for that I've been gone for a couple of weeks now. Was dealing with a little bit of family emergency, but none of that matters. I'm back now, so let's get into the video. So I'll first start off with Aries, as I always typically do, because Aries is the beginning of the astrological year, as I said before. So if you've been following, Aries is a cardinal sign, and it's also a fire sign. And Aries are the beginning, not only the beginning of the astrological year, but the beginning to the spring seasons. So Aries cardinal signs influence them to be initiators, which means they tend to initiate things, which means they tend to put things into action. They like to put things into action, and their fire sign gives them that spark. So an analogy for this combination would be something like a starter for an engine. You know, they're influencing that spark. That's that spark that's happening before a dynamite is about to explode, or anything, if you will, that initiative start that gets things up, that gets things rolling, as so to speak. They get things started off or start rolling for the whole astrological year. So they ignite the flame, or they initiate to start things up, and that flame has to be lit in order for things to start, for momentum or motion, in order for that to start to take place. Also, with the influence of fire and cardinal, this can lead to them being the most active out the zodiac, or giving them the influence of having possibly the most energy out the zodiac, because of the starters of the astrological year, so to speak. So they have to start everything to put all of the other signs into motion. So this will leave them traits, as I said, to having the most highest energy, or to being the most active out of any of the other zodiac traits or zodiac signs. And this is because their cardinal sign is already active, and their fire sign gives them energy. So when you combine the two, what do you think of? I mean, it's simple: active energy. So there you have it. That's like a double. You feel me? That's like combining energy on top of energy. When someone is already energetic and you're saying they're active, what are you saying? You're saying that this person has a high amount of energy, or is extremely active. But just like anything that wants to spread, as a fire needs to spread, or anything that needs to have momentum as activity, when you have activity, you need to gain momentum in order to keep the active nature flowing. You have to have room for that to do so. So if Aries is being tied down or clinged upon, this can hinder those traits of theirs. They can fail to gain that momentum in order for their energy to keep flowing. If they feel tied down in any way or form, it doesn't have to necessarily be with a person, but it can be with the task or anything. If they can't get past that, or if they can't get there, if they're too boxed in, they can't allow that energy to flow, then that can hinder their energy, that can hinder their activeness, that can deplete their traits, as so they're not using it as to their best advantage, or to their highest potential of what they can be doing something. After Aries comes Taurus. And because Taurus is a fixed earth sign, fixed and earth both are stable traits of those signs. So because they both seek stability, or both are stable, you can assess Taurus with possibly being the most stable out of the zodiac. Because as I stated before, earth signs are grounded, hence earth, the ground. So they're naturally, so that's where that natural stableness comes from them. And fixed signs come in between the middle of the seasons. They come in between the cardinal and mutable. As I said, cardinal is the beginning of the seasons, mutable is the end of the seasons. So fixed is the middle, and fixed seeks to stabilize the beginning and the end. So you have, as I said, double stability. This also leads to Taurus probably being the most practical out of the zodiac, because earth signs are already practical in nature. And fixed signs, they don't like to take risks, hence being fixed. So a Taurus would be extremely against taking risks or jumping out of the box or going against their normal way of particularly doing things, which influences dual stability and dual practicality. Next, we have Geminis. Geminis are mutable air signs. The characteristics, as I stated before, of a mutable sign are adaptive, changeable, and transformative. Air signs are associated with communication, intellect, things of those natures. So when you combine mutable air, you would think of an analogy of something like a transformative air, or changing of air. So something like maybe steam, or you could say a tornado, or anything where you could think of changing air. And you would think of that, as I said before, you would try to think of that and how that relates to a zodiac's traits. So when you think of air, and you think of air being as light or breezy or flighty, if you will, and you think of the mutable sign of it being changeable or things of that nature, you can see why many people consider Geminis to be like the most changeable type of people in the zodiac. A lot of people speak negatively about Geminis. About how they always change, and they always seem to be this different person at one moment and another person at another moment. That's actually true in a way. The reason that's true is because because of that cardinal. That cardinal does influence them to change a lot. And the air represents, as I said, being flighty or a breeze or a gust or a nature like that. So but it also influences, the air also influences their communication and intellect. So what you will have a lot is Geminis usually tend to change the way they talk, as far as the way they communicate with somebody, or the way that they think. So this could change, you see what I'm saying? This could change their actions, because they can think different. They can think one thing at another minute, but maybe have a change of heart or a change of mind because of their intellect, because their intellect is constantly changing. But even though that might seem like a negative, it's also a pro, if you will. See, there's always duality in everyone's charts or everyone's zodiac signs. So what would be the duality of that? The duality of that is the fact that Geminis they can converse with many people on many different levels of all walks of life, because they know how to adapt in that way. Because of that mutable sign, they can adapt, and that communication allows them, and the influence of that communication allows them to be able to talk to many different peoples, many different people. Yeah, peoples on many different, from many different walks of life. They can communicate on the intellect level as well as dumb themselves down to talk to somebody who maybe isn't that much intellectual at all, or who fits the middle line. They can, you see what I'm saying? They can communicate with people on all different levels and all different forms because of that changeability influence and that adaptive ability influence that they do have and share. But that mutable air or changeable air can allow them to be a breeze in the wind at 1 minute, or a downright gust of wind. So you see what I'm saying? So this also makes Geminis easily or prone to being hot-headed, because they can change, they can change their communication at 1 minute. They're more inclined to change. And if you think of air is all over the place. So that can lead them or influence them at times of having less stability than other signs, or being unstable in certain aspects or certain ways. And it could be with their communication or intellect. As I said, everything is based on duality. But the good thing to that, or the good thing about Geminis in that regards, is that the mutable sign also brings adaptability. So they always can bounce back, or are more easier to bounce back than other signs. Cancer's our cardinal water sign. They are the beginning of the summer. So when you're thinking of the beginning as their cardinal sign is, and that they're water, you would think of analogy of somewhat of a beginning of a stream, a beginning of a flow. And since Cancers are, since their cardinal sign represents initiative or activeness, and their water represents emotional, they can always start things on an emotional front. They always can lead on an emotional front. When I think of Cancers in that regards, as far as their combination of their cardinal with their water, you tend to think of people like motivational speakers, coaches, things of that nature. They will excel at things like that because of that type of nature they have, because they can rouse people on an emotional level, because that's how they feel intuitively, because they're also intuitive. But as I said, with duality and negative influences in all traits, Cancers, because they have that active energy from or the initiative energy from their cardinal sign mixed with their water sign, which is an emotional and intuitive nature, they can also be caused to start drama based off of their emotions, because they can become moody or overly emotional about things, and this can lead to drama in their lives. On to Leos. Leos are fixed fire signs. A perfect analogy I would use for that is possibly like a candle, or like if you turn your stove on, if you have a gas stove and you turn it on and you have the fire set at one temperature, or the flame set at one temperature, or your heat that's set at one temperature in your home, that would be that's what I would consider to be something like a fixed fire. You see, because the fire is set. And this typically is how, as I said, with all the other combinations, this is typically, you can use that analogy to think of how those traits affect those signs, because they go hand in hand. So now let's look at it more in depth. Their cardinal signs their fixed sign influence brings stability. Their fire sign brings passion and energy. So when you combine the two, you have a stable passion or stable energy. And so this is how Leo's traits tend to be. They can they're more stable with their energy, or probably more stable than any of the other fire signs, or their passion brings stability to it. So once things get started, as far as in a passionate sense, and passion could be anything. It could be a relationship, or it could be passionate about a business, or passionate about, so on and so forth, your work, school, whatever. So whenever those things get started, when they get started, even though they're not necessarily good at starting things off or finishing them, but they play the middle role. If you watch sports, they're good at second quarters and third quarters. This is how you can contribute to all fixed signs being, because they come in the middle of those seasons that bridge the gap between the beginning seasons and the end seasons. So they bring that stability to those things. So with a fixed fire, they're bringing stability to things of passionate natures, or things where their energy is needed towards, or things where their energy is flowing towards. They can bring stability to those things, or where there's energy at where they want to bring that stableness to. So another way to look at it is if they keep that fire lit. They keep the fire lit. They keep the flame burning. They're going to keep the party alive, keep things going, keep things moving, keep things producing, while after things have gotten started and before things come to an end. So they might not increase the energy of whatever project or party or whatever it is. They might not increase that energy, but they will keep things rolling. They will keep things moving forward. So on the flip side to that, even though that fire is going to stay lit in them, and they're going to keep things lit and keep things going, that stableness or stability in them is going to keep things going, even possibly well after things should have ended. They're going to stay stubborn to things, because that's that stubborn nature in them in general. That's where they get the stubborn nature from. It's from that high passion, that trying to stabilize things, that wants to stick things out through until it's completely over. Even when it's over, they want to continue to hold on, because they're trying to keep things going. They're trying to keep things lit. When you talk about Leos, and you talk about, you ever heard the expression, somebody can be loyal to a fault? This goes especially high for Leos, because they can stay extremely dedicated due to the stability of their fixed sign. I keep saying cardinal, of their fixed sign, combined with that passionate energy of their fire sign, so they can stay overly dedicated to something well after it's time for it to be let go. Virgos, we just hit Virgo season. Virgos, as you know, are the end of the summer. They are mutable earth signs. So when I think of a mutable earth sign, I automatically think of something in the form of quicksand, changeable ground, right? So as you know, their earth sign makes them more stable, practical, and grounded. So their mutable sign makes them more changeable, adaptive, and transformative. So with every sign, this can be a double-edged sword, right? Because on one side of it, this makes them more able to bend more or think out the box more than any other earth sign, because they're not seeking so much stability, or they're not so boxed in, they're not so grounded. They can change, their ground can change. They're more transformative, and they can adapt to things more than any other earth sign. But at the same time, this can make them the less stable out of any of the earth signs because of that nature, because they're more changeable, they're more transformative than all the other earth signs. So their ground isn't still, their ground isn't set. As I said, quicksand. You think it's solid, you try to stand on it, you're gonna sink in, right? So this can be the same, like I said this before, the same analogy used to Virgos. They're not always going to be this stable person, or this grounded person. They're going to be more adaptive. As I said, the adaptiveness now, that's a pro, because they can adapt to things more. But because they're changing more, they're more likely to, as I said, not be as grounded, not be as stable. Being kind of in between they can be solid at one point, but at the next minute they can go to being quicksand, they can go to being soft. Okay, so that was part 1 of triplicities combined with quadruplicities. So there will be a part 2 to this. So once again, I hope you guys liked. If you did, click the like button. Check out the description for my social media pages so you can follow me there. Comment down below to let me know how you feel about the video. And subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to stay in tune for future videos. Once again, I hope you guys liked the video. Thanks for your time as always. Peace and love. Till next time.